everybody. I'm Matt Valley. Welcome to episode number 106 of the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, where we share the super cool backstories and side gigs of the research and insights pros that you trust. Hey, I'm really excited today because I have Aryn O'Donnell from Fieldwork with me. Aryn is awesome, and so is Fieldwork. So Aryn is the VP of Corporate Services, right? It's been there for a little over 12 years, something like that. And hey, if you have spent any time in this insights industry, the market research industry, you are probably a client of Fieldwork, as am I. So best in the business, I'll say, and I should say I'm really excited because we've got the Quarks conference coming up in February, and on February 29th, once every 4 years, Fieldwork is hosting a happy hour, an Insights Association happy hour, right after Quarks ends at their new facility in the Dallas, Texas area. So I'm right next to my home here. I'm very excited to see the new facility. I can't wait. So come join us for that. That's going to be super cool. All right. So something that Aryn doesn't know, or people don't know about Aryn, is that she may not have ever been in research at all. You might be seeing her on TV, at the theater, that sort of thing, but it wasn't meant to be. Aryn's got an awesome story about that. So we're going to talk about all that and more on today's podcast. Welcome, Aryn.
Thanks so much for having me, Matt. It's great to be here, and I'm thrilled to get to see you in person at the end of the month at Quirks and at our event on the 29th.
Yeah, me too. I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be a ton of fun, and I liked your old facility, so the new one's got to be even better. So I can't wait.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Super cool. Well, it's great to have you on. And what I'd like to start with is, hey, everyone's got a story of how they got into insights and research, right? So what's your story? How did you get into this space in the first place?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have a story of sort of I fell into it and I got addicted and I couldn't leave. And that is my story. I was fresh out of college when I started working with Fieldwork. I had studied international studies and Chinese in college, and I had no idea what I was going to do with any of that. And I just I got connected with Fieldwork. I started my career as a client service specialist, and with the intent of figuring out something else to do. And I had no idea what that was. There was the Peace Corps for a little bit, teaching English abroad for a little bit.
Yeah.
I considered those options, but I just loved what we were doing in the facility. I loved the space that was created to help people connect at its most basic level. And some days it was, doing a beer taste test. Some days it was bringing in patients to talk about their condition. And so I really just, I loved the variety of work we got to do and the ways
Right.
we were really helping people find answers. I'm a really curious person, which I think that personality trait really aligns with market research.
Yeah.
And I just continued to stay curious and continued to find opportunities within Fieldwork. And 12 and a half, almost 13 years later, I'm still here to tell the tale.
Yeah, super cool. Now, one thing I didn't say in my intro, but I should say is I'm actually wearing my Chicago glasses here today. See the
Let's
Chicago
go
Bullseye.
Bulls.
Yeah, what do you know?
I love it.
I have bona fides because I lived in Chicago for 5 years. In fact, all three of my kids were born in Chicago, and you are from the great city of Chicago. Is that not correct?
It's a great city. I now consider myself a Chicagoan, but I will say I am a proud Colorado native, and I will
Ah,
never lose that title. I was born and raised in Denver, and I'm very proud to be a Coloradan.
yeah, cool. So, did you start at
Fieldwork,
Fieldwork
Denver.
in Denver? Okay, and
Yeah,
you transferred to Chicago.
I did. So I've been in Chicago about 10 years. I started my career at Fieldwork Denver as a hostess. And I will say, beyond just the joy of being in the facility, those mountain views of that facility are the best. So if you haven't been to Fieldwork Denver, even just to stop by, had a great opportunity to host some of those attending QRCA a couple weeks ago in our facility. But I always said, even if everything goes wrong in your study, looking out that window and looking at that mountain view at least makes a little bit of the day go right.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I love Denver. I haven't been to your facility there yet, but I'll be sure to stop by next time I'm in town.
Yeah.
So, super cool. All right. So So I know that theater was a passion for you as a young lady. So tell us this story. I love the story.
Yeah, so this being like a music podcast, I am one that appreciates music. I have no skill in music in any way. I tried for a very long time as a kid. My parents wanted me to be well-rounded. I was in a lot of sports.
Right.
Sports were never going to be my jam. When I played soccer, I was doing cartwheels on the field. There was monetary incentives for me to get a goal. I got one
Yeah.
goal in my like 7 year soccer career. And my best friend was like a, D1 collegiate soccer athlete. So like they sort of knew sports where I was going to do them. I was never going to be great at it. I fell into musical theater just by way of, I think friends were doing it.
Okay.
And they talk a lot about improv classes when it comes to like professional development. And I do think
Right.
there's something there about being in front of people, being able to think on your feet. My career, though, I think really like the nail in the coffin of my musical theater career was my first paid gig at age like 13. I think I still have my paycheck framed. It was like, $50 after taxes. I played a jester in a show, and I had one song, one solo, and it was called I Can't Sing. And I had to sing the whole song off key. So while I wasn't great at singing on key, I will say it is really hard to sing an entire song off key. And that was sort of the beginning and the end of my paid musical theater career. But it was so much fun. I definitely learned a lot from it. There was confidence gained from being on stage, engaging with an audience. And I have even more just admiration for those that are able to get on stage night after night after night, whether it be at the theater or in a band. It is not easy to do.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of bands, I know that your boyfriend, right, is a drummer in a shredding metal band, and he's really friggin' good because you showed me a video. So you're still around it anyway. So that's kind of cool.
It is, and it is great, being around people that are experts in areas that you're not is
Yeah,
so much fun because you get to learn things you never knew. Is
yeah,
him being able to look at a drummer or a musician, he just has an insider track to what they're doing. And then on my
yeah,
end, seeing the hours he puts into practice,
yeah,
it's always a good reminder is, you see someone's end point, but you forget there was a beginning point at one point to
yeah.
get there. So it's very encouraging to get to watch people that are great at what they do.
Yeah, now I have to ask, this is totally off script, but I'm curious. So in Chicago, does he practice in an apartment? Like,
No. Oh my gosh, we would be kicked out of our apartment, Matt. We would not have a place to live if he practiced. So no, there's a studio he goes to. He rents
yeah,
the
rehearsal
studio and they
space.
have the
Yeah,
drums and everything there for him. So
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
we are luckily our neighbors don't hate us for that reason.
I have to ask because for a while we lived at 40 East Chicago on the Gold Coast, and we are on the third floor. And I play the drums, so I'm
Yeah.
very partial to the instrument. But the guy who lived just below us had a son who started playing the drums, and he would play it in our building, and it was something else. So
That's a that's one of the we have a niece and we're sort of waiting to the point is like when do you buy her a drum set and at what point how much is his sister going to hate us at that point
yeah,
when we do that. So we're sort of towing the line of like she's still way too young, she's 2, but
yeah.
it may be in her future, we'll see.
Take some parental patience for sure. If
Yeah,
you're All right, so you were technically a professional, right? You drew a paycheck.
I
You drew a
did.
paycheck
I
as
drew a paycheck.
yeah, and I'm guessing maybe the jester who sang the song "I Can't Sing," maybe that wasn't the role you tried out for, but it's the one you got. Is that fair?
I mean, I had my eyes set on the starring role. It's always, you want to dream big, but also be humbled when you don't get to that point. But it's been really fun to see those around me succeed. And again, I love I love what music can do, whether in the
Yeah.
from the theater or going to see a concert. I think there's something, a connection that I've experienced between market research, particularly in-person research, and
Yeah.
music in general is just the way it can connect people, especially people that may never have any other connection in the world. Is I've gone to, I prior to meeting my boyfriend, I did not listen to metal music, and going to
Come on,
shows with
Aaron.
him, I know, shocking, right? It's been just, you meet some of the coolest people and people that you get connected to in ways you never expected to,
Yeah.
and having these real human moments. I remember the first few concerts we went to, probably 2021, after things opened up a little bit more from COVID, is we saw a band and there was someone in front of us who just, his energy was incredible. Hands are up, having the best time. And I went up to him after the show and I just said that, like, you seem so happy. He's like, this is my first show in 2 years. It's one of my favorite bands. I just could not be happier. And it's those human connections that I think we really, in our facilities, try to foster, is to be able to have that shared energy of that comes from a shared space, a shared physical space.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely comes across, I think, at the facility, and certainly with you as well. I mean, you're such an engaging person, so it's clear that you took some lessons from your theater experience, and it just kind of became part of who you are, right?
Yeah, yeah, we try to.
Yeah, super cool. Well, one thing that's really exciting to see is that face-to-face market research seems to really be coming back and have a real resurgence now that we're a bit a ways from COVID. Hashtag face-to-face MRX.
Thanks for the plug.
so, so what are you seeing, as you look out into the future of insights from your perspective? What's it look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's been really interesting watching the evolution of the conversation around methodologies, appropriate methodologies for the type of research you're trying to do. I've really loved, I think prior to 2020, there was a lot of default to in person. And now there's a really interesting conversation around, like, why are we gathering these people? What are we trying to gain? I've seen clients even sort of go from online right to ethno because they want to get as close and as intimate as possible
Right.
with their participants and the respondents, which has been really cool to see and be able to support. So I definitely see that. I think that the other side we've seen, um, with particularly in person, is not just the respondent connection, but the
Mhm.
backroom connection. Is we've heard from a lot of our clients that are coming in person, is it's great to see the participants, but it's also awesome to have a full day with their team and their client that's focused in a
Yeah.
room. You can get coffee together, you can get dinner together. And that's where so many of the great ideas happen, is when it's
Yeah.
just, a walk to dinner or a glass of wine after dinner. And so it's been
Yeah.
really awesome to hear that conversation be a little louder, around why are we gathering. There's more and more companies having in-person meetings. I was just in New
Yeah.
Orleans last week, and Anheuser-Busch gathered. I think they brought about 6,000 people together for an in-person meeting. Pepsi
Wow.
did it I think at the end of last year as well. And so there is something to be said about that gathering, which has been great. And I
Yeah.
think that even, then we look at the flip side of the future of insights, where you can't have a conversation without talking about AI. But I think that what I found really interesting about this conversation again is having the thing do what the thing is best at doing. And so you bring in
Mhm.
technology to do what it's best at doing, but it can't replace what the human's best at doing. It can help
Right.
support, but having that human insight, that empathy, it I think it frees up time for people to be able to do more of that and less of on the admin side, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting because I noticed this phenomenon, but I didn't think about it in this way, that since so many people are working remote now, when they engage in an in-person research project, that's like you said, that's their time together, right? Because they're actually on a day-to-day basis not spending time together. So it's got kind of that double benefit, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I really like to ask this question because I learn about a whole lot of new different sites and sometimes series and movies that I haven't seen. So, big, broad question, Aryn. So, it's about media, right? So, what media are you turning to for insights, inspiration, or enjoyment?
Yeah. So I am a big podcast person. I commute to the
Cool.
office 2 days a week. I take the train. So I love putting in a podcast and zoning out.
Yeah.
One of my favorites as of late is Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend.
Ah,
I love the questions he asks people. He's a really interesting person. And I feel
yeah.
like he asks questions that not everyone are asking of different celebrities he brings on.
Hmm.
So I'm a big podcast person, but I will say I am kind of in a slump of podcasts. So I don't have a ton of great ones. I have a couple in my queue, but that's probably my favorite one. I did recently learn about Spotify's audiobook option. So I've been consuming a
Ah.
lot of audiobooks via Spotify as well. But I did learn they have a max number of hours you can listen to each month, and usually by like the sixth or seventh of the month, I've maxed that out. So big audiobook person. I love podcasts. We talked about Chicago, but living in this city there's just inspiration everywhere. I'm a member of the Art Institute. I've been a member of the Museum of Science and Industry, and
Yeah,
I,
wonderful.
our office is maybe a 10-minute walk from the Art Institute. So it's a great way to end my day some days, or go for a lunch and just walk through and see what inspires me that day. So, and I mean, I think too is you've probably guessed it, and I feel like the listeners have, is I again, I'm not a metal person, and so being exposed to people with different interests than
Yeah.
me has been a great way of continuing to be inspired. So surrounding myself with interesting different people who have different opinions and different interests we're always sharing podcasts and book recommendations, and so that continues to keep me inspired.
Yeah, I love it. Just out of curiosity, what part of the city do you live in?
I'm on the west side of the city, so I'm right by Humboldt Park.
Yeah, yeah, very nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool part of town. Excellent.
Yes.
All right, well, you said it already, Aryn. This is a rock and roll research podcast. Maybe metal is not going to be on this list. That's okay. That's okay. But I'm very curious to know what will be on this list. So let's say, Aryn, you're stranded on a desert island. You have three records of your choosing to keep you company for the rest of your days, totally of your choosing. What are those records?
All right, so the first one would be, it's a throwback to when I was a kid and when you bought like CDs, and so you just had what, like 13 songs to listen to on repeat.
Yep.
Sticks and Stones by Newfound Glory. I can still sing
Ah,
every
interesting.
word to them, and we went to go
Yeah.
see. I've seen them in concert a few times, and it's so much fun.
Was just talking
Um,
about them last night. So my bass player is a huge fan. So
oh, okay,
he's
there we
cheering
go.
me right now.
The next would be, I think one of the reasons that I gravitated to musical theater as a kid and continue to love it is the storytelling aspect of it. I love when a song tells a story.
Mhm.
And Brandy Carlisle is, I just
Yeah.
think, an incredible person, an incredible storyteller, an incredible musician. And so her album, by the way, I Forgive You, is one of my favorites, but
Awesome.
really any Brandy Carlisle album I would be happy to be stuck with on an island. And I will say, she also loves something I love, being wine, and she has her own wine company. And I will say it's pretty good. So I'll give her that
Cool.
plug as well.
Good tip.
Um, and then the last one is a band called Foxy Shazam, and the album would be their
Yes.
self-titled album, Foxy Shazam.
Yes.
They are one that their music's amazing. Their in person, their concerts are just like the best I've ever seen. The energy they bring, you talk a lot about
Yeah,
like how people share energy, and they leave it all on the stage for you. They are
totally.
so engaging. At one point, their piano player is crowd surfing with his piano. He's like laying
Yeah,
down. It's amazing. So those would be my desert island albums.
I love that. That is the
Yeah.
first mention of Foxy Shazam.
Okay.
So cool. I mean, if anybody, if you get a chance to see them, I mean, the like you said, the energy that they put into their show is just something else. So super cool. I love those
Yeah.
choices. Really
Mhm.
cool. And hey, Aryn, any chance to chat with you, I'm all for it. And so I'm super excited that we're going to have the chance here
Yes.
not next month, in a few weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, very cool. I can't wait to see the new facility, Aryn. So let's keep in touch. We'll talk soon for sure, and rock and roll.
Rock and roll.